Hello to you all. Today we're going to talk a little bit about um, no thought, which in Chinese is Wu Nien. And it's a very interesting topic, so much misunderstood as to what no thought is. It isn't really no thought the way we think about no thought. It is being able to function in the present moment without having clinging thoughts. This was something that was very strongly advanced by the sixth patriarch, Huineng, and his Platform Sutra. And again, the Platform Sutra is taking you up to the highest you can go in terms of understanding, and then realizing then from there the embarkation places beyond words and phrases, and one by virtue of faith and practice and the proper background and understanding then is able to have via a process not so much of a transcendence but a self-absorption, which is very interesting. It is kind of like mind being absorbed by mind. The mind that's being absorbed is the arising mind by the non-arising mind. The arising mind is that which is appears to be produced moment to moment in accordance with causes and conditions. It is what we believe is the foundation of our very essence or self or soul. Many different ways that we can look at that, and but it isn't in that way. This is the part that it becomes very very difficult for people to truly be able to get over, and it marks the point where the Theravadan uh, went up to, and then the Mahayana really began to blossom and try to expand by fleshing out. I should say maybe not fleshing out, flushing out the self and fleshing out what is a bodhisattva. That there is a it's very difficult to explain. There is a point where mind rolls into mind by turning the mind's eye inward, and in that turning the mind's eye inward, the the self is not destroyed. The self is understood as to its appearance. We neither confirm it or negate it. We just understand that these appearances are mind itself. Yet there is an understanding that these appearances, they also appear to be transient, that they're arising and falling, rising and falling. To throw some more into this that will leave you unable to grasp it is that this appearance is not real nor unreal. It is not something that is cast out or something that increases the mind. The difficult part about practicing with the mind, which is the dhyana from the six paramitas, is that we have to abandon the notion that these appearances, phenomenal appearances, including the appearance of what appears to be a self, is mind itself. We don't understand that, and we have to see it. It is why there's a saying that the Buddha's use of vexations of sentient beings to practice, because they're using their very own mind by turning the mind's eye inward. It is not that they're separating these vexations or phenomena or illusory self from the Buddha mind. It is the exact opposite. It's absorbing those into mind. And in this way, it's understood that these things, whether we see them as sacred or profane, are absorbed uh, because that's what created them. We know that everything's created by the mind. So the mind cannot create something and then uncreate it. It is still there, whether it's past, present, or future, it's there. Now, the difference, though, which is very tricky about all of this, is that what the Tien Tai school said, that there's the noumenon and the phenomenon. Sometimes I use a mathematical concept, really poor thing to say concept, but as to a denominator, like a fraction, where there's the denominator here and the numerator's up here. The numerator being uh, countless phenomena that is appearing, but all of this phenomena is really belongs to the denominator. It is part of the denominator, but by virtue of the denominator contains all of it. So if we chop it up, it may seem to appear separate things, or it may appear to be an ego. And I have an ego, you have an ego, you have an ego, whatever. We see it in this way, but it isn't this way. We think it is. We understand that it's arising, but it's not separate from the denominator. When we begin to enter into this area is where the sutras and the treatises begin to make sense. Before that time, there are contradictions that are there that are difficult to resolve or impossible to resolve in the samsaric world and samsaric understandings. It doesn't work that way. It's difficult for us to understand these things because it kind of defies our sense of what reality is. It defies our sense of what we think enlightenment is, what we think the Buddha is. So it's difficult. So I wanted to read a few things to you that will help you kind of understand this a little bit better, to be able to serve as this embarkation point for you. Again, we're going back to Huining and a bit of a discussion of his platform sutra. And here it says, Huining challenges assumptions of separation by advocating samadhi of oneness. Again, this is ekayana. The samadhi is just this. I'll explain in a moment. Non-conceptual wakefulness. The non-conceptual wakefulness is how the mind should be moment to moment, and it is actually a samadhi state. But we think samadhi is only when you're meditating and you get somewhere and maybe you feel like you're flying away, or you meet Manjusri or whatever. It isn't in this way. One can maintain a samadhi state in everything they do. In fact, the meditation, sitting on the cushion, is just a practice so that we can practice this non-conceptual wakefulness. You're awake. What are you awake to? You're awake to that everything that you see is mine. Everywhere you go is mine. There is no centralized point of mine. Everything is connected in some way or another to mind. This is non-conceptual wakefulness. We see these things. We don't cling to them. We don't cling and say, oh, this this appearance looks good, or that's a big, beautiful plant, or whatever. We don't see things in this way. We see things um, just naturally as they are, as they're appearing. We don't have to name it. We don't have to do anything. The mind naturally does it. So when we practice what is called mere awareness, or returning the mind to mere awareness, probably the best definition of mere awareness is to be able to directly contemplate every appearance, whether it's a mind thought, it's a sound, any of the senses, something, a recollection, or whatever, that we see that all of those things intimately. Just like when you do direct contemplation, you're localizing on one thing and you're looking at one thing, and you don't name it, you just see it in this way. This mere awareness is like that, but it's turbocharged because it's engaged in everything in the environment in this way. It is aware and intimate with your surroundings, aware and intimate with the people around you, aware and intimate of what has happened and what is going to happen. You merely look at a person, and if your mind is very, very silent, very quiet, it can tell you about this person, their past, their future, what's going on in the present moment. It isn't like you're a soothsayer or you don't do that. Sometimes people get trapped in that and then they're off the path. I'm not saying in this way, I'm saying is that you begin to get a little bit of a taste of the intimate. You can't do it 100%. If you could, then it would no longer be practice. It would be the omniscientness of the Buddha, a complete enlightenment. But we practice in this way. We practice in the understanding of wisdom, in the understanding of this perfection of wisdom is not in just understanding what has been said or what I say, but in carrying it out moment to moment to moment in your everyday life. How do you reflect? Do you reflect as egotistical? Do you reflect as fearful, as someone that does has no faith in themselves and their abilities to do things, or do you reflect yourself as confident? You have faith. You're calm. However you reflect yourself will determine what happens in the environment. We don't have to pick and choose. We just simply rest the mind in the present moment and allow this awareness to function naturally. And when it does, it can process a myriad of information, countless information in one moment. And the very same moment that takes you to read a sentence, the mind is capable of uncountable thought processing and calculations and looking at things. And so by being calm, the calmer one is, the more access to this information one gains, because there's not a one there anymore. It's just mine. If you practice and you go, I can't keep track of it. I'm looking at this, looking at that. This is not the right way. So we have to begin practicing this mere awareness by maintaining a quietness in the present moment. But in doing that, as the thoughts come up, they flow naturally, flowing, flowing, flowing. We don't cling to them. When we cling to them, that's an akusala thought, and it slows everything down. So, for instance, if I was to say it in this moment, this is a very good moment to sit and listen to the Dharma and eat a jelly donut, everything stops. What? A jelly donut? Oh my gosh. All of a sudden you veer off and start thinking about a jelly donut. And then everything then is very funny. It's very, very funny. What do you think happens with the environment when the mind starts concentrating on something? Can anybody tell me what happens to the environment? This is like bonus points if you can get this. It's not easy. No one want to venture? Nobody? It speeds up. The environment speeds up. We can't keep up with it because our processor started slowing down. We have to hit it. Come on, get back, start working again. And it's lost in that moment. The more it's lost, the more that the environment becomes undecipherable. When we bring it back down, bring it to the present moment, when we're in this moment, and then everything slows down. Why? Because the processing speeds up. The mind is capable of seeing things. Sometimes I'm there waiting for somebody to say something that I know they're going to say, but it hasn't gone from the processing in the mind to a decision to have it come out of their mouths. It's that fast sometimes. You can see things much faster than that, actually. That doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it can. Because the mind is processing information at the speed of mind, not the speed of vexations. Speed of vexations, you're trying to do it and you're holding the jelly donut. You're not going to get it there. You're just going to get sugar and jelly all over the front of your shirt. It doesn't work that way. When we're calm, divest ourselves from the notion that this mind requires the self to process information. The mind flows naturally. Everything goes just easy. So what I'm doing is taking very complicated, deep and profound meanings of wisdom and presenting it to you in a manner which you can use it. You can apply it in the present moment. You can be well oriented as to time and space. What is happening here? What is going on? It's very interesting. Um, there's I remember way back when I was a kid, a young teenager, and I was watching a show called Kung Fu, and and this these three children were sitting outside a temple wanting to be accepted by the master. And so the master finally, after days, invited him in and he sat him down at a table. And when he sat him down at the table, then he poured tea for himself and all the others. He poured the tea for them first, and he poured the tea and he put down the kettle. And the two of the children, they drank the tea, so delicious tea. So they drank the tea. Only one of them didn't drink the tea. And then when the master drank the tea, then that one child drank the tea. There's a mindfulness there, a simple mindfulness. Chan is in this way, but even in the most simplest, there is the deepest. The young monk asking the master to teach him the Chan, and he said, "Did you finish your bowl of food?" And he says, "Yes, I finished my." Or, "Did you finish eating?" "Yes." And he says, "Then go wash your bowl." This seems like, well, that's like so basic and simple, but that's Chan. The Chan is that awareness that's there. In the retreat I was at, I um, after I finished eating, several different people came and asked for my bowl and platter and utensils so that they could wash them. And before I gave it to them, I tried to make them as shiny as I could so that they would not have to toil too much to do it. But it is just a notion, a token of respect. And in this way, we understand the present moment. We understand what needs to be there. You know, it is not so much that I'm saying I'm so great that I need somebody to wash my bowl. I serve a purpose in that. I serve it in a manner in which people can put down the self. On my part, I don't want them to work too hard, so I clean the bowl quite clean before I give it to them so that they don't have to work too hard. It isn't in the effort of cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. It is in the gesture of representing this and gratitude. Shifu used to always say, uh, gratitude is a virtue, and it is. And when we have gratitude, then that means that the time that you took to teach me, I appreciate that. And even if it's just a small gesture, I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the value of what you've given me, which is much richer than winning the lotto. And in the last retreat, there were a lot of lotto winners there, and multiple lottos. You know, it's just something amazing. But it is in this way that we're engaged in the present moment. If somebody needs help, we give them the help. Sometimes, you know, we can be exhausted, but nevertheless, if we can help a person, this is something we do, and we rest later. It's just this way as how we practice. This is the wisdom. This is the perfection of wisdom, is to do this. We do it over and over, and we never tire of it. We are always are in the present moment, in the delivery of compassion. Compassion comes in, can be presenting the Dharma in a very profound way. And compassion is also just simply um, helping somebody up, helping somebody to clean something, whatever. All of them, all of these gestures, when they're done with no thought, no giver and no receiver. So the people who wash my bowl, I don't think, oh, I'm so important because people are washing my bowl. Or they're currying favor with you. It is this operation that we do this in a way as a how would you say it, demonstration, good word, demonstration of this wisdom and compassion. And this demonstration of wisdom and compassion, then many people um, were coming to pick up my bowl and plate to wash it because it is something that, how would you say, when one does something like that, we plant um, seeds of compassion in fertile ground. So other people get the understanding of that. They get it, and it's something that's actually a beauty to behold. That when people are selflessly doing things, and in a retreat, it's a perfect setting for those things to happen. That you see people doing that. In the retreat, there were two major cooks, and those cooks selflessly cooked for the whole time, and it was like the movie, like Water for Chocolate. You could feel the love in the food. I'm ashamed because it's the only retreat I ever came back from and actually gained weight. Um, and I normally lose weight. I go to the scale and go, oh, okay, what? but but it was something that they they were um, they were doing that as their practice. I never look down on the kitchen help or think that their practice is lesser than mine. It isn't in this way. It's all practice, and each way can be a major practice for us to uh, practice with. I'm not really getting to my lecture so much, but I am getting to it because this is Wu Nien. This no thinking, no, we just do the things and do them in this way. If we think this is there's no there's no giver and no receiver, we just do it. Then it's fine. If we do something and let's say for some reason you go, oh, I'm going to donate $20,000, and then somebody writes thank you and say that's all the thank you. I didn't even get a charm or whatever. Then it's not really given from the heart. I'm not saying it, please. I'm not saying anything, suggesting anything. I'm just making a comment that was actually in the Chan stories of a lady that gave to a temple some meager candles that she was only thing she could afford, and then later she became very rich, and then she brought a bunch of candles, but the abbot didn't come out to thank her that time, and he was saying because this money that you spent for the candles represents a small percentage of um, what you earned the last time when you came. It was maybe 50% of what you owned. It was a great magnanimous showing. It isn't that your gift is bad. It was the other one was so incredibly great. Um, and we see things in this way. Um, I don't know if I mentioned it here or not before, but there's one of the billionaires that has is going to give $100,000 to a food bank, international food bank, and it seems like it's quite a magnanimous gesture on his part. So this $100 million, but it turns out this $100 million is what he actually earns in one day. No, 1 hour. Excuse me, 1 hour. He makes that money, $100 million. So if you were to give $10 somewhere, your gift would exceed his. Well, I shouldn't say that because that's you make more than $10 an hour. That's but I mean, whatever it is, if you gave $100 an hour, that would be greater. And so we see the things in terms of of the intentions. When we talk about the paramita of Dana, in Dana, it is the same way. There's two classes of giving. The first giving is the giving that is a conditional gift. I give this to you because I want to curry favor with you. You know, I I will take you on all of these expense paid. Everywhere you want to go. And if the person is a Supreme Court justice, I'm not saying that, but I'm just using as example. That's not really true giving, is it? Um, but if somebody gives um, with their heart, that's the true dana that we use, and that dana is tempered by the wisdom. So whenever we talk about the paramitas, we have to start talking first about the perfection of wisdom, because the perfection of wisdom enables the other ones to be properly demonstrated in the present moment. Okay, let me continue on. I haven't really gotten too far in this. One line so far. Um, or concentrated attention to the present situation. The samadhi of oneness is straightforward mind at all times, walking, staying, sitting, lying. This constitutes an intriguing practice of um, hold on, of mindful meditative action performed with attentive detachment. So, this attentive detachment that they're talking about here is non conceptual wakefulness. And when we do this, we direct the mind in that way. Sometimes when they talk about the paramitas, they reference that dhyana to meditation. It's more than meditation, much, much more than meditation. It is the practice, moment to moment to moment. Meditation is just a controlled environment in which to practice. But the mind has to stay in the state of non conceptual wakefulness. We direct the mind to be there. Now, what I'm telling you requires your practice and the understanding of the wisdom there, and then an interest in demonstrating it. It is not, I am demonstrating non conceptual wakefulness. Non conceptual wakefulness is demonstrating me. If I was there um, and saying, I am the most wisest, most richest person, that's not non conceptual wakefulness, that's ego. But non conceptual wakefulness enables this body to function without attaching to any kind of an ego. You still can have your personality. You still maintain the personality, but you don't maintain those kinds of characteristics that are governed by the ego, or self-centered or egocentric, or selfish interest. It isn't in that way. It is one that enables this body to really be very effective in samsara. This is very important. It's not easy for us to practice in this way because the habitual patterns always seem to bring us back to an egocentric way. But if we're awake, so what is awake? Awake is going, this world is a dream, this world is an illusion, but there is suffering here. And by virtue of my vows, I will try to help people to not have these kinds of uh, uh, distractions or fixations or desires or aversions, and so this body can serve in this way. Not bad. And so, um, it's funny though. I rarely have a day where I don't think that I could have practiced better. Um, I never have a day where I say I used all the time perfectly, but it's okay. It reminds me that in this way, in this body, in this identification to this body, there's still work to be done. And what's also important is one does not play like they're a bodhisattva or act like a bodhisattva. You know, you see these movies where people play the Pope. They're actors. They're not the real Pope, but they act popish. I don't know if that's a word or not, but they act like the Pope. You see the people always acting like the president. Then they have this way of being the president or a general. And but they're not generals, they're actors. We understand that our original nature is the Buddha, and we act in accordance with that, but we don't play a Buddha, act a Buddha. We demonstrate bodhisattva conduct, but we don't make people believe, oh well, I'm the Buddha or whatever, a bodhisattva. We act in accordance with that. There's a difference there, quite a big difference. This is the subtle part of the practice of Chan, that there is not a duality there, but this idea of not a duality is very, very subtle. We have to just, like Master Sheng said, it's like peeling an onion, and you peeling it, and each layer becomes more translucent, more translucent, more translucent. But in the end, it's all gone, and the onion is still there. We know that, but the notion or the concept of the onion, or the sense of being, is gone. It has been absorbed by the mind. And when it's absorbed by the mind, it is not a thing. It is not enlightenment. It is not something to be attained to. It is just the wonderful liberation of resting in the present moment, the mind resting all the time, resting, resting. In this way, it can find peace. It's difficult for us to do that because we all have our difficult situations, and if we don't, we will. People are born, people die, people get sick, all sorts of different things that happen, and we have to understand that this is due to the appearances and samsara and clinging to it. It continues this. So we have to serve here like an ambassador to the non-dual. We appear to be here, but in the heart, it's non-dual. And then everyone is family. Everyone we're concerned with. And as I mentioned in the 8,000 line sutra, there's a part, I think I mentioned 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the mother and those who are concerned that the mother is ill. It's the same as Vilimakriti, and Vilimakriti is ill because all sentient beings are ill. It's the same kind of a connection that we have, that we understand in this way, that we can either add to the illness of the world, or we can be the elixir that does that helps in this way. The problem is that the elixir, although we have this elixir of amrita, which is a sweet nectar, the first taste of that nectar are pretty bitter, because we have to let go of the sense of attachment to this world. Let me continue on. And then this part's kind of interesting, because it says there are obvious echoes between the practice and the Taoist notion of wei wu wei, acting without acting. And this kind of acting without acting, from the Taoist, it's very similar to that, except the one difference is that acting without acting, they're still play acting, because they're still clinging to a life and being, and they're just saying, I'm playing like acting without acting, but I still have this life. But when it's practiced in the right way, there's not a self there at all, and it is not cling to one iota. Okay, so then we get to, let me move down a little bit, and this is on Nien, no thought. Huineng speaks of the standpoint of ultimate truth, the inherent Buddha nature. And this is what was from the Theravadan into the Mahayana, was this idea of first emptiness, and everything is empty. And then it gets to the next point, in which there is a Buddha nature that is in this emptiness, and it gives it some it's difficult to say. I know what it is, but it to use words, it's difficult. When we see Buddha nature, we're able to see the function of the mind. Sometimes they talk in the sutras of the interest of the mind, that the mind has an interest in things. And so if you're going to look at your body, your corporal body as the Buddha body, just imagine that's the Dharmakaya, the Buddha body. And if you have a problem with a finger and you go, oh, that finger doesn't look too good, or it's crooked or whatever, there's an interest in this. Even though that finger's so far away from the brain, if I put it here, maybe I might be able to feel it, but I still can feel it when it's way over here. There's an interest in that. And the same thing with the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature has an interest in what's happening in mind. And there's no outside of mind. It's all in mind where the one returns to, but it has nevertheless an interest. So there's an emptiness, but it's not an emptiness like an empty box. There's an emptiness in that everything belongs to mind. That's why it's so impactful when we say that to know all the Buddhas of the past, present, future, perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature, all of the phenomena that appears is created by the mind. This is critical, critical. I've said it many times, but what I'm trying to do is let it flow through a little bit deeper, a little more closer to the heart when we say it's all created by the mind. There's no mind that creates it, that cranks it out and says, oh, that one right there, like something out of Fantasia. I could say it that way so I won't upset any religions. That, that unless you're into Greek mythology, but they say, oh, that one right there, I'm going to shoot a lightning bolt at him. Wow, you get hit with a lightning. What happened there? Oh, the gods must have been angry at you. And so they did that. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would a god want to throw a lightning bolt at some lesser being? It doesn't make any sense. Buddhism has this way of seeing things, perceiving through the perception of mind, which is not ones and zeros, but to see things in this way. But it does not have a way in which it is directing. When we call this directing the mind, it's not directing the mind in a way where it is responsible for the negative karma that happens. It isn't in this way. That aspect of the Buddha mind, which is very interesting, hang with me on this because this gets tricky, really, really tricky. That aspect of the Buddha mind in which these things happen is the Buddha mind. And it's happening to the Buddha mind. It's happening within the Buddha mind. There's no other place that it's happening but that way. But that may seem negative, but it's also positive because since everything is created by the Buddha mind, one can set the course of their practice, of their interest in the practice, to be one that is that can direct to more favorable environment, so that we can create a pure land on earth. But creating a pure land, we don't create it. We direct the mind, which is mind, to set about favorable environment for a pure land to be created here. And yet nothing is really created, nothing is increased or decreased. It isn't in that way. Because even when we understand this, that these things are happening, the mind itself is this kind of a mind is an imagining. Just like the Diamond Sutra says, all that you should think of this fleeting world is a bubble in a stream, a morning star, a dewdrop on a leaf, a flash of light in a summer cloud, an illusion, a phantasm, a dream. It is just this way. But it still matters. Mind still has an interest in this. I'm going to, well, let me see. So Wen emphasizes non-clinging to any verbal teachings which only present obstacles to the true awakening. Instead, Huineng stresses the perspective of no thought, an open, non-conceptual state of mind. Here, I would say, no, it's not a state of mind. So this particular writer, he got an A up to that point, and I'll knock him down to a B plus because it's not a state of mind; it's mind. And so that allows one to experience reality directly. And again, here, then I knock him down to a B minus because he's saying you're going to experience reality directly. What would Manjushri say about this? Let me see. Where is he on around? He was here, wasn't he? Anybody know what Manjushri would say about that? He would say it not something that says Shlokas write something on the wall. We abide in non-abiding. Who is the we? Who is the we? You guys just came out of a retreat. You should know this one. He would have. Oh, Tori's there. Okay, Tori, what would you say?
Um, it's not we as in our egos. It's not the self. You would not be the ego. It's mind.
So he would say, I am reality. Just like he says, I am the unobstructed mind. I am the inconceivable. The I is not an I of a persona, but of mind itself. Yes. So you're pointing right to it too, and the non-abiding. Again, this is also pointing to it, but in the manner of the Paramita Sutra, he he does that to shock you into saying it is where the one returns to. So it's not just a duality there, and it's not a one, but there's if everything is the reality, everything is inconceivable, there's nothing to be distinguished from it. So it's undifferentiated, undistinguished. So this is very, very high level chant, but I'm bringing it down so you can apply it in your daily practice. In this way, you're not acting like you're enlightened. You are demonstrating this. Okay, and then actually, I'm very glad that this person wrote that because you really can distinguish the second level and the first level. Let me skip because I'm running out of time, but I wanted to go to. I was trying to find a piece from This is from the Platform Sutra, but Master Chanhua's version of it, and and he's talking about the part where it says that one should um, produce a thought that is nowhere supported, and looking at it, and essentially, um, what he was saying was this kind of a practice is first level, and that if one practices to copy that, that's second or third level, which I've been saying all along. And this great master, Master Shen Hua, stated, I'm sorry, I can't find it. One last chance. Oh, it's hard. I can't find it right now. But essentially, what he was saying is that when we practice the demonstration, this is the first level. The second level is trying to polish the tile to make it a diamond, to try to come up from the staircase up. That can happen. That takes longer to do. And as one finally is climbing the staircase, they realize I'm not going to get there from there. And then they eventually go to the first level. It isn't necessarily at the second level will get them there unless there's a very, very deep root. But in the first level, as one practices, it's already there. Mind is there. Mind, all you're doing is demonstrating the perfection of mind. So you're practicing mind, not trying to become mind. Mind is already there. I'm not saying your mind. It's not your mind. It's mind, and that's the difference. You start that you have mind. Oh, sorry. You start that is mine. Mine has you. You turn the mind's eye inward. It's very difficult because sometimes I slip into conventional speaking and it messes everything up. But when we practice, we have to be very careful with the words that we choose, or else we will reify the idea that there is a life and being or an ego. I think that's enough for tonight. I didn't really get to uh, all of the Dharma, but it pretty much reflected what I wanted to say to you about this. This is kind of a bit of the theme of the last retreat I did, although we went substantially deeper into it. Some of it, the deeper, was just a constant reaffirmation of mind throughout the 7 days, and it really makes a big difference by the end. There's definitely people are not practicing to get mind; they're demonstrating mind, and that's a difference. So I will take questions. And to show you how much compassion I have, I'm missing the World Series to talk to you guys. Tori?
Hi, Gilbert. Thank you so much for the talk. Just one question. You mentioned about this one iota. What is one iota? I don't understand the word iota.
One iota?
Yeah.
One iota means that whatever I was saying, it just means there's no trace of it. Just like when we talk about Master Ling Chi saying that he searched for 12 years for this thing called karma and couldn't find anything the size of a mustard seed. You could say he couldn't find one iota of it. Same thing.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. I know. And if you have questions about my English, please, let me know.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Jake.
Hi, Gilbert.
Hello.
You mentioned about these acts of like compassion, I think, that mindfulness gives rise to. And I think this is consistent with the theme of the retreat, where it's through the Prajnaparamita that mind is able to exhibit compassion. Maybe I said something wrong there, but you also mentioned at the retreat that compassion isn't just a natural, like, default function of mind. There's more dimensions to it. So awareness gives rise to compassion, but it's not only that compassion is just this neutral thing that comes out of awareness, but that mind has an interest. And I'm wondering if you can just say a little bit more about what's happening when those acts of compassion arise, when awareness gives rise. Is it simply like a cultivation of awareness, or is it something more than that?
It is mind returning to mind, and it is the Buddha nature. What we do is take as far as we can close to there. It's like taking you to Dodger Stadium, to the parking lot, and you can hear the roar of the crowd. You can hear the organ. You can smell all of the food, the nachos, whatever, hot dogs, but you're not inside the park. And you go that far. We don't quite understand what that interest is. So I take you as close as I can, Jake, to there, but you have to go into the park to experience it. So I can kind of mention it, but the Buddha nature itself is inconceivable. So whatever I talk about is still within the concepts of the samsaric world, but this interest is from the heart of the mind. There's something, and I can't call it something because it's just the nature of the Buddha mind that uh, demonstrates that or functions in that way without some actor doing it to someone else. It is just the nature of the mind that will do this, the nature of the mind that will have an interest. So I try to equate it to a corporal body. So you could say, well, the brain says, I don't, the eyes go, yeah, it looks really bad. It looks like you need a Band-Aid or something there, but it has nothing to do with me. But it's the body, your body. But here, your body is the body of the Buddha nature. And there's not one place where in this hand, the feet, or whatever, there is not Buddha nature. Now, I'm using this in a way of anthropomorphizing Buddha nature, which is woefully deficient. But it's as close as I can get you to that. You have to feel that interest. You have to go into that park to get the full experience. So I can only take you that far. Your question is a very good question, but for me to try to answer that in a way, it would. There was somebody that you were in the retreat too, and there was somebody was asking me a question, and then I just went yes or something, but essentially the person was right there at the precipice. But if I tried to answer the question, I would just be going to another point of embarkation into the mind. I would not really be taking them further, and I would be doing them a disservice. It was more jump and you see it yourself. Don't be afraid, jump. That's where you're at right now. Okay? So, okay. All right, Harry. And don't bring me no Dogen.
No, no, I'll bring you some donuts. Is that okay?
That'll work.
Okay.
See how cheap Gilbert gets sold out for.
Yeah. All right. Buddha Nature for a Donut. So I was reading this book by Brooke Ziphorn on Tiantai, and I just wanted to see what you made of this statement where he says, Tiantai philosophy asserts emphatically that Buddhahood inherently includes every form of evil, that these evils can never be destroyed, and that they do not need to be destroyed. and they go on to talk about the evil inherent in Buddha nature, and Buddha nature does not cut off evil. I mean, I get that it's coming from some sort of non-dualistic viewpoint. But I just was wondering if you had any insight in kind of why they make that kind of a statement and what it's, what it's
You
really
know,
trying
you
to
know this yourself. Why do you read this crap? I mean, you know this. You know this. You know, Ananda, you've got to go into that forest and do it yourself. Don't rely on these kind of statements. I mean that they no matter what, and they make it sound so beautiful or whatever, but they're half truths. They're like
Okay.
politician type of half truths of things, where when we say, the evil and sacred, neither sacred nor profane, but it's that way. It's not that there is a profane in mind, nor is there something sacred. Those things belong to mind phenomenally, but ultimately they're just appearances,
Right.
and they're that way. But if people read that, then they'll go, oh, Buddhism doesn't disavow evilness. But it's a distorted view of somebody that lacks a true understanding of Buddha Dharma, or the consequences of making statements in that way that are half truths. Sorry. So
No, that's what I needed to hear.
no, you need to go to the forest and figure this out, and don't take your books with you.
Okay.
You're there. You gotta do that. I'm serious.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I hear
very,
you.
very serious. You've got to do it yourself. You've got all this stuff. Just just drop it. I don't know if Robert's here, but just pick up Robert's broom and start brooming. And you'll see. Just start brooming. Sweep, 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 sweep. Okay?
Thank you.
That's about as kind as I can get to you.
Yeah, no, it's
Give to
great.
you.
Thank you.
Amitofo. Okay, Shloka.
Hi, Gilbert. Hi, everybody. So towards the end of the retreat, you said that we would now have more of an interest in Dharma, and we would also start feeling uneasy in samsara. And I feel like that started happening at the end of the retreat. It's like I woke up on the last day and felt kind of strange. It was like I'm just a projection with the consciousness. And it was like, how am I even moving this body? It was weird. And I guess I'm just starting to now question everything as to what's real and what's not real. And even though I'm a bit freaked out, honestly, I guess it's a good thing. And I'm just wondering, what do I do with this? And, I guess it's fresh from the retreat, but I don't want to forget and get pulled back into fantasy land.
You just put it down. You just rest in the present moment. All of those things, it's like trying to make the leap, and as you're leaping, you reach back, and you're trying to grab onto something, to hold you there. And going, wait a minute, I'm not really sure I'm going to buy into this. I heard what Gilbert said, but I want to kind of cheat and hang on to something. Don't do that. Just let go. You're not going to disappear. Nobody's going to say, where's Shloka? Oh, she went to this retreat and now she just sits in the corner and just says, like emptiness, emptiness, emptiness. No, it's not like that. You become more functional. You become aware. You become very productive, incredibly productive. You may have some times where things look like they're not quite right. It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about that. Don't think. Have faith that you can do this. But you're trying to keep yourself, like, trying to do well. Can I have this experience and keep I want to make sure I have my camera so I can record it. And I once told that to one student many, many years ago. And I said, you need to sit and meditate with a camera by your side. So the moment that you become enlightened, you can take a picture of yourself, a selfie, as to that. It isn't in this way. Let it go. You'll get there. You'll get there. You're sincere. You're sincere. This is natural. Okay. This is natural. It's like you're there, and then the self kind of comes up with these kind of things and saying, this is getting a little spooky. You're getting into the deep end. You see the number on the side of the pool says 6. That's over your head. You're in over your head. Maybe you better pull back. Don't do that. Don't do that. Remember, I told you, dare to eat that peach. Just keep going. Just keep going. It'll all settle down. Okay? You got this. Or mine got this. Mine got you. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
You'll be fine. Okay, Tori.
I just want to make a comment of what Shloka said. I remember before I became before I became a Buddhist, I was exposed to this teaching. It's called A Course in Miracles. Quite similar. There are a lot of ideas that are similar. A lot of teachings is very, very close. And they said the same thing, that your projection and you're an afterthought. And when I truly understood what's going on, I was disturbed for 3 days, and I was crying in the shower and everything. But then looking back on this whole thing is that, wow, that is the beginning of wisdom. And, it's good. I think it's a necessary step that, one reaches that. And it's not something that you can just, after your eyes are open to it, you cannot say, well, I'm going to close back up. And, it doesn't work that way. You can't go back anymore. Sorry, but it's great. Just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Yeah. It is good. It's in this way that we have been there and done that, got the T-shirt for it, and then we let people know it's okay. Just keep going. Let go of the side of the pool. Don't worry that it says 6 there. That was my thing when I was very young. And I would be swimming, and then I'd go, oh, it's 6, says 6 feet. That means that I can't touch the bottom. And then I would just swim around and go. I had confidence in my ability to swim, so it was okay, But I still had a little bit of an eye towards the side to say, okay, I can go there. In the beginning, I was like hanging close to the side so I could grab it if I really needed it. After a while, I just go to the middle of the pool, and I felt comfortable there. And it will be that way. It takes that way, and sometimes it can be. It's not startling, Shloka. It is the ego that startles you, because the ego doesn't have a function in that, and so it will be pressing all the fire alarms in the school to try to get you to stop going to school. Okay, you're okay. You'll get there. Okay, anybody else?
Gilbert, Sonia asked if there are any meditation retreats for beginners that you have coming up.
Nothing for a while. Right now. I'm heading to Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan. So well, haven't you been to Taiwan? Yeah, you came once there. That's the only one I have, and then next year I won't have anything until probably sometime Connecticut or something in the States. I'll be going to Switzerland and London and maybe Estonia, wherever that is. But I think Professor Pan I need to talk to him about that before he goes to India. But nothing until the summertime next year.
That might work. I'm thinking something I can take Spencer to.
I'll keep my eye open for something that's that's one that you could go to if there's anything along those lines. Sometimes DDRC has some things like that you could do, or 3 days or something. But I just finished the ones that were local, the LA ones and San Francisco ones, so those would have been perfect for him. But tell him to hang in there, just keep showing up. I know this is a little bit like a bit over his head, but that's good. I'd rather do that than just teach him ABCs. So I think he's capable of more than ABCs. So don't worry if you don't understand things. And many people don't understand it. It's all right. It's all right. In due time, it'll come. Okay. All right. Anything else?
I also want to remind people of the fundraiser. I put the link in the chat. Thank you so much for all of the contributions already in the past week and a half. But the link to the fundraiser is in the chat.
Yeah, in propagating the Dharma, there's a lot of expenses that come along for that need to be covered, and I don't get people that are attendance or anything covered, or cost of whatever the productions are to give you this Dharma. So if you can help out, it takes pressure off of us, and it takes pressure off of people's pocketbooks to coming out of their pocket for transportation costs and stuff like that. So I think that it's something that I hope that you can do that. It's kind of funny. Some of you are Westerners and you're not used to giving, and there was one center, I won't say where, but they went, how come you don't invite Westerners? And they say, oh, the Westerners, they don't donate anything. And such a shame. It maybe if they taught Dana generosity, and to Westerners, maybe they'd understand how important it is to give. But it's a self-fulfilling type of a thing where you don't let the Westerners come, so the Westerners have no idea about generosity. Some of you have really learned, and I'm very thankful for contributions that you've made. It's something important that we do. And so thank you again for that. Anything else, Senta?
That's all for me.
That's all. Okay. Oh, well, thank you very much for all of you of attending. We've got a few more before I head out. So keep tuning in. And these last lectures of the year are very sweet because they're a culmination of what I've been presenting all year long. It's ways that I've found the way to present the Dharma to all of you in a way that you can understand it. The thing is sometimes I have to laugh and say, just don't look down, because you'll be surprised how far you've really come. It's something amazing. To those of you who are in Taiwan, I'll be coming there to give the retreat, but there's some other activities that I'll do there. So please, check with Esther, and maybe Esther can, I think she is putting some of the stuff there, the activities that I'll be doing in Taiwan while I'm there. It's not just I'm going to Jinsan, but there's other places, and she could have booked me up for 45 days if I let her. But I did want to come home for Christmas, but I'm giving up Thanksgiving to go there earlier. So I thank Esther for all of her help like that, and she's looking at me going, "Good, I see you. I remember that I owe her a bunch of responses on different things that she wants answers to." Okay, that's it. Thank you all. I really appreciate seeing you, and bring people to this as you bring people to the Dharma. Let's make this a real strong Sangha. Okay, take care. Amitofo to all your blessings to all of you. Have a good day.